What's good, family? Law 18 of the 48 Laws of Power through the lens of truth. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. The world is dangerous and enemies are everywhere. Everyone has to protect themselves. A fortress seems the safest, but isolation exposes you to more dangers than it protects you from. It cuts you off from valuable information. It makes you conspicuous and an easy target. Better to circulate among people, find allies and mingle. You are shielded from your enemies by the crowd. 5 dangers that isolation brings. You lose contact with the sources of your power. 2. You lose your ear for what is happening around you. 3. You lose your sense of proportion. 4. You cut yourself off from the kind of knowledge on which your life depends. 5. You cannot hear what is happening around you, including the plots against you. It becomes harder to break out of your isolation when you choose to. It sinks you deep into its quicksand without you noticing. Let's look at it. So let me ask you a question, God. Law 18, does it apply in the realm of truth? Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. It's truer than the laws that we've been looking at. It's a different conversation than showing the idiocracy and double-minded and division that we carry in the paradigms that we try to run parallel on the inside of ourselves. At least we've moved on to a conversation of doing the right thing with the wrong motive. I say it loud and bold when Robert Greene has presented something that is not accurate inside the realm of truth. So when he presents something that is accurate inside the realm of truth, I will acknowledge it as true the same way I acknowledge the illusion as not true. Do not build fortresses to try to protect yourself. That is absolutely something that translates into the reality and factual experience of a divine creation. That is 100%. You do not need to build fortresses. You do not need to build hideouts, honeycombs, and none of the other stupid names that we have for our places that we run to when we're afraid that something evil or something harmful is about to overtake us. Because what is evil other than the absence of good? And if it's not good, if it's evil, it's an illusion. And the only danger in an illusion is you partnering with it and calling it into life. Giving it your life. Literally sacrificing yourself for the existence of what you never wanted to experience in the first place. The world is dangerous and enemies are everywhere. Lies. The world is what you decide it is because you are the author and creator of your experience. The world is a reflection of your inner conversations. If the world is chaotic, then your inner world is chaotic. Your thinking is chaotic. Your expectations are chaotic. If the world is unpredictable and sporadic, so are you. As you judge the world or anything within it, so is or so can be found in the contents of your judgment the truth of the inner workings of you. You have a hard time trusting people, not because people have done you dirty in the past. People did you dirty in the past because you entered partnerships knowing how untrustworthy you could be. So you bring your suspicions along, and your suspicious nature was reflected in their suspicious nature, and your expectation of being burned, like the stories that you've heard in the past and harbored, came into your experience not by circumstance or chance or because this other person didn't know what to do with your loyalty. It came into the experience because you called it into the experience with your expectation of it. Everyone has to protect themselves. Lies. Some people choose to try to protect themselves, which is why they find themselves incapable of operating natural to their design, which is to extend themselves freely in relationship with those around them so that all can collectively return to the knowledge of their divine origin, divine purpose, and divine exodus. Everybody's not protecting themselves. Only the fearful are protecting themselves. And there are some who have come into a intimate experience with truth and who walk in partnership with the Creator on the inside of them, who have embraced I am as their only identity. And these people are not walking around trying to protect themselves. They are ready for whatever. And they can feel you coming before you come. So tread lightly. A fortress seems to be the safest. Truth seems. If you live by your interpretations, if you live by your perception, you'll go with what seems to be so. And it'll run you into dysfunction and misery every time. If it seems to be a certain way, it's because you have begun evaluating a situation or a circumstance, and you have begun playing the judge once again. And the only way you can judge is if you lean to your own understanding, which your own understanding is nothing but the collection of calculations that you have harbored from the past. Isolation exposes you to more dangers than it protects you from. Lies. There are no dangers. What can genuinely be dangerous to one who is an extension of the Creator and Sustainer of all things? You were given dominion. Power is natural to your design. It's in your DNA. Your ignorance leaves you subjectable to the experience of danger and annihilation. Not isolation. Isolation does not cut you off from valuable information because the only valuable information to you flows from within you. And that relationship with I am, with the whole spirit, it's the whole spirit of the whole Creator of the whole world. This is not religion. This is fact. You had to originate from somewhere. This world originated from somewhere. This world and you originated from the same source. That source is a divine entity that has never withheld love from its world or you. This is science, not religion. Religion is the practice of the belief in this ain't belief. We know this. We can observe this. We can analyze. We can put our hands on this. 48 Laws of Power says that isolation makes you conspicuous, makes you easily seen. You do recall that it's inside of the same 48 Laws of Power that you were told to make yourself extremely visible until you were dearly admired, and then you were instructed to remove yourself to increase the demand and the value being extended for your presence. That's isolation, ain't it? And then right on the back side of that, you're told not to build fortresses for yourself. Well, if you're going to remove yourself from the collective in order to increase your value so that you can yield more power over the people that you want power over, you're going to need a fortress to retreat to so that you can remain safe to execute your plan. So this is the issue that we have with worldly information, even when it aligns with truth and fact and the universal principles that governs our experience. When you partner with truthful information with the wrong motive, you still end up inside of an illusionary experience chasing things that already belong to you. Listen, it's an endless pursuit to chase the things that you have already been given. You can never, ever earn the goodness and the grace and mercy and the splendor that you were given freely. So if you spend your time chasing it and trying to earn it, you're going to expire and find out what's on the other side of this experience, which has to be more life, because what else could it be? In whatever form and whatever that looks like, our own understanding. Information like the 48 laws of power that teach us how to compete and how to compare and how to overcome not true obstacles, which only originate on the inside of us by us partnering with illusions and our ego, but illusionary obstacles like exterior sources of life, other sources of life's ambitions that don't coincide with your own. Well, neither one of y'all should be chasing accomplishments, because neither one of you could accomplish anything greater than being the son or daughter of the creator of all things. There are 5 dangers of isolation. You lose contact with the sources of your power. There's only one source of power, period. It's so you know that there's only one source of your power. Your power flows from the source of all power, who extended to you freely all of that power and deposited it inside of you and gave you the ability to become aware of that power and execute it, utilize it freely for whatever you would choose to. But the only time you're not sick and growing deeper and deeper into isolation and depression, which becomes the fortress that we think keeps us safe because it seems so, is when you are operating out of the natural flow of love, which is your identity. You were given all things to give all things, and that keeps you operating free and flowing inside of your identity. But when you start trying to harbor things for yourself, when you start picking and choosing who you're going to extend goodness and grace to, you find yourself just as sick as the people that you look at and try to deny the goodness that flows to you freely. If you want to change the nasty, evil, vindictive people in front of you, it starts within you. I'm not a Michael Jackson fan. I'm not a big fan of anybody that's yelling. And Michael Jackson was constantly yelling, oftentimes in ways that I need a lyric sheet to understand what the hell he was saying. But change, starting with the man in the mirror, was an absolute factual statement that we all can take heed to and apply to our life. If you want them to change, then you must become the change that you want to see in other people. Stop trying to get them to compensate your decency with their excellence and requiring their perfection as a prerequisite for your excellence. Because when they try to demand perfection to you, you have a million justifications and defenses for why it is not possible or fair that they demand such a presentation from you or anyone. 2, you lose your ear for what is happening around you. You don't need an ear for what's happening around you. You need an ear for what's happening within you. You need to keep watch out for what's going on the inside of you, because that's what dictates what goes on the outside of you. If you will listen within, you won't have to watch without. You don't have to live by sight. Just retain a mustard seed of faith that the universe operates as it was designed consistently. And it was designed that whatever is going on in you flows to you and becomes what is around you. 3, you lose your sense of proportion. I don't even know what that means. 4, you cut yourself off from the kind of knowledge on which your life depends. I do know what a proportion is. What I'm saying is I have absolutely no idea how that translates to the conversation of isolation. And that's the thing about worldly information. Sometimes you have to make it make sense. And that's what we don't do here. It either makes sense in fact, in truth, or it don't make sense. We're not making it make sense. You cut yourself off from the kind of knowledge on which your life depends. Just like we said earlier, your life depends on only one form of knowledge, and that is true knowledge. And true knowledge was deposited within you freely for you to recall at all times. You have the rememberer on the inside of you, and that relationship, that bond, is not something that you can ever break or lose based on your performance or your behavior. This is not a petty relationship like the ones that you have often found yourself in, where you can make one mistake and never be forgiven and be replaced. This is not that. You cannot hear what is happening around you, including the plots against you. Again, the plots against you start within you. And there is no plot against you other than the illusionary world that you create when you believe that you are anything that you are not. And you are only a divine creation with a personality and identity that is a complete reflection of the one who created you. Anything else is untrue, and anything else is something that you do not need to listen to. Because when you begin to listen to the other partnerships of what your identity is, you find yourself in experiences such as somebody plotting on your life. The issue with isolation is you were made for partnership and relationship and companionship. You crave it, you long for it. The only time you don't is when you've grown sick and you've developed false narratives of what people are, what they want from you, and what relationships entail. A true relationship is something that you long for and you always enjoy. But you often find yourself in prisons, and confinement is not something that is natural to the divine creations that are on the physical plane, returning to full knowledge